Hello and welcome to this lecture video. In this video I'm going to be discussing how to calculate the cost per equivalent unit or the average cost per unit, same thing. And then we're also going to be doing some example problems on how to calculate this. Okay, so if you're following along on page 149 of your course pack. So this is the formula to calculate the average cost per unit and the cost per equivalent unit. We take our total cost for the period divided by our total units for the period. When I talk about total cost, I mean the cost in beginning with plus the additional cost incurred during the current period. And then in the prior lecture video, we talked about how to calculate this, which is the units completed plus the equivalent full units in ending with. Then what we can do is once we have this cost per unit, what we can do is we can multiply that cost per unit times the number of units that we completed during the accounting period. This would give us the cost of goods manufactured. Just like we calculated the cost of goods manufactured like that, what we can also do is take the cost per equivalent unit times the number of units sold during the accounting period, and that would give us cost of goods sold. We can also go through and use this number to help us calculate the cost of the units in ending work in process, in ending with. We can take the cost per unit for materials times the equivalent full units in ending with for materials. We can take the cost per unit for conversion times the equivalent full units in ending with respect to conversion. Add those two together, and then that would give us the total cost of ending work in process. And we will be doing several problems that go over that. Okay? So let's look at an example down here. We can say the balance in beginning with a big rubber company. In a rubber company would also be using process costing because rubber is rubber. It's similar, identical products. Okay? Beginning with for direct labor was $135,000. During the month of March, an additional $650,000 of direct labor was incurred. One of the things that you can do to help you solve these problems is to write down this formula and let it guide you in solving these word problems. Because when you get these word problems, you've got a lot coming at you. And it can be difficult to remember what's relevant and what's not relevant. And the case is, when you look at the actual formula, that will help you. So this is our formula broken out for calculating the cost per unit. Cost in beginning with, 135. Cost incurred during the current period, 650. We completed 25,000 pounds of rubber. Right there. And then we had 8,000 units in ending work in process, and they were 50% complete. So that relates to this. Okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the cost per equivalent unit with respect to labor. So this problem is only giving us labor, and so that's why we're only going to do it for labor. In addition, the next problem we'll do it for labor and conversion. We'll come over here and we'll say with labor cost beginning was our 135 plus labor incurred during the accounting period, which was given to us at 650. We can add those two together, and that gives us our $785,000, which is our total cost. Then we can look at, this is our numerator. Then we can look at our denominator for calculating denominator. Okay? And remember we had units completed, which was given to us at 25,000 pounds of rubber. And then we had units and ending with, which was 8,000 units. But remember, those are 8,000 partially completed units. So just like we talked about in the prior lecture video, what we have to do is take those 8,000 partially completed units times the percent complete, 0.5, which gives us 4,000. Now what we have is 29,000. Now we can calculate the cost per unit. We take our total cost divided by our total units, 785, divided by our 29,000, and what that gives us is $27.07 labor cost per pound of rubber. Now, the thing is if we know we made 1,000 pounds, let's just say, well, we know we made 25,000 pounds, right? 25,000 pounds. How can we figure out the labor cost of those 25,000 pounds that we completed? What would we do? We would multiply 25,000 times the cost of labor per pound of $27.07. 25,000 times 27.07 would give us the total labor cost for making 25,000 pounds of rubber. Okay? So let's take a look at an additional example problem right over here. Say a company makes a single product using two processing departments. Processing Department A and Processing Department B. After completing in Department B, it moves to finished goods. So what we have over here, right, WIP A goes to WIP B, so Department A, Department B, and then once it's done in Department B, it goes to finished goods, and then of course to cost of goods sold. That's the cost flow. Okay? It says right over here, the company started 10 units into production in Department A. All material was added. What that's telling you is 100% complete with respect to materials. Okay? That's telling you, whenever you see that, it means it's 100% complete with respect to materials. But of the 10, not all were done. But they're done with respect to materials. Of the 10 started, 6 are 100% done. So 6 are fully done with respect to materials and conversion. 4 are an ending work in process. Each of these 4 is complete with respect to materials, and that's because materials are added at the beginning of production, but only 25% complete with respect to labor and overhead, which we know is called conversion cost. Conversion cost. Okay? So, we have over here on page 151 is we have our T accounts, $40 materials, $14 for conversion for Department A. This is our numerator for materials. This is our numerator for conversion. Okay? So the first thing is we're going to compute the equivalent full units for Department A, equivalent units. How do we do that? We take those total unit, the number of units that we completed, which we were told was 6. Completed 6 units. Plus equivalent full units in ending WIP. There are 4 units in ending WIP, and they are 100% complete, so multiply times 1 gives us 10. 10 equivalent units, which will be our denominator for calculating our cost per unit with respect to materials. Conversion, 6 units finished, plus remember we had 4 that were not done, but of those 4, they were 25% complete with respect to conversion, which gives us 1 equivalent full unit in ending WIP with respect to conversion. We add that to the 6, gives us 7 equivalent units with respect to conversion. Now we can calculate our cost per unit with respect to materials and conversion. How do we do that? Total cost divided by total units. Total cost divided by total units, but we have to do it separately for materials and conversion because they were different percent completes, which then results in a different denominator. 40 divided by our 10 gives us our 4. Then the conversion cost of 14 divided by 7 gives us 2. That gives us our cost per unit of $6. Then what we say over here is show the transfer of the cost of the 6 units which are completed in Department A, move the cost of these units, and then prove the balance, okay? So if we look over here, we'll say, look at the transfer of the units from Department A to Department B. We're going to look at this in terms of T accounts. So we have WIP A, remember we had the 40 for materials, 14 for conversion. We had 6 finished. Right? We finished 6. And then we also know from the prior page that each unit on average costs us $6. So if that's true, what is the cost of those 6 units that we finished? 6 times the 6 gives us $36. $36. So then I can put that here on the credit side, because what I'm going to do is I'm moving it out of WIP A to WIP B. Both of these are inventory accounts, which means they're current asset accounts. The way I increase a current asset is with a debit. The way I decrease a current asset, or any asset, is with a credit. So I'm moving it out, which means I'm reducing the balance in WIP A, so therefore I will credit WIP A. And then I'm moving into WIP B, therefore I will debit WIP B. And then the journal entry, debit to WIP B, 36, credit to WIP A, 36. That's my journal entry. Now, cross this out and say, calculate ending WIP, which is kind of the idea of the proof, and I think it makes more sense to say, let's just go through and calculate out ending WIP. Okay, so if we look over here, what we have left over, right, we had $40 and then $14, and then we reduced it by 36, which means if we take 40 plus the 14 minus the 36, that means we have $18 left over in WIP A. Okay? So what I want to do is go through and manually calculate out this $18, which is the value of ending WIP for Department A. Let's go through and calculate out manually the value of ending WIP in Department A. The way we do that is we look at our equivalent units, materials, times cost per unit materials. I'll come over here and we'll say ending WIP. So I'll do it for materials first, and then I'll do it for conversion. So how many equivalent full units do I have with respect to materials? I have in ending WIP, I have 4. Remember, I have 4 units in ending WIP, but they are 100% complete with respect to materials. That means I have 4 equivalent full units in ending WIP with respect to materials. So 4. And then I look over here. Here's my cost per unit. It's 4 times my cost per unit of 4 gives me 16. Repeat the same process for conversion. Equivalent units, conversion, ending WIP times cost per unit conversion. How many equivalent full units do I have in ending WIP? 1. Because remember, I have 4, 25% complete, which gives me 1. 1 times, and then my cost per unit, 2. And then I can add them together. And it checks out. And that's how I go through and manually calculate out the value of ending WIP. I take my equivalent full units with respect to materials in ending WIP times the cost per unit, the equivalent full units with respect to conversion in ending WIP times the cost per unit. Thank you.